I wanted to make sure the next step of my evolution as a man was something I could do forever and something I can serve the people with. With this conversation is how we can incorporate faith and finance. Everyone has all the information, right? You can go online, you guys are tech, every information is everywhere. Paralysis by analysis, right? So people are just inundated with so much, they don't know what to do. I want to make sure people are thinking about money in a way that's not just about them and getting the latest Ferrari or whatever it is, but it's learning how we can be blessed to be a blessing. It's in the essence of making sure your heart is aligned with your money so it's not all about you. The first 30% needs to be given to 3 different places. First of all, you give, you tithe, you save the next 10%, and then you invest. You don't try to chase money, you're attracted by who you become. If you become a more valuable person, you will attract more money.
Welcome back to another episode of Code and Capital. We have a guest in the studio. His name is Ikechi, and he's a personal finance coach. How about you just tell us a little bit about your background?
Sure. I mean, so I think I've known you for how many years? Since 2018, Hope City. I don't know if this sounds good and everything like that. So background in Marine Corps, I did Marine Corps from 2006 to 2010. I got injured actually in Afghanistan. I was doing music before that. And the biggest thing for me, especially, we'll talk about faith and everything. I wanted to make sure the next step of my evolution as a man was something I could do forever and something I can serve the people with. So I've always been a teacher, even when I was doing music and everything like that. But for me, to make sure that what I'm seeing in the industry right now, to make sure I'm leading with service rather than products or anything like that. So a lot of other things, God first. To God be the glory and everything. And I want to make sure, I think with what we're doing with this conversation is how we can incorporate faith and finance. So, yeah.
Nice.
That's good. So, the first question I wanted to ask, what should people be doing right now to plan for their financial?
We are in a very interesting stage in, when it comes to like the market and things like that. I would say back in 1970s, 1980s, things are very asymmetrical as far as information. Meaning that people on the other side of the table had all the information and the audience or the client didn't have that many things that they could look at, right? But now we're in a part where everything is symmetrical. Everyone has all the information, right? You can go online, you guys are tech, every information is everywhere. With that leads to paralysis by analysis, right? Mm-hmm. So people are just inundated with so much, they don't know what to do. So the biggest thing you want to start off with, and I call it the VASE technique, is understanding what your goal is. Right. So, you guys can stop me if you want, but basically, of course, the VASE technique is basically vision, assessment, strategy, execution. Vision, knowing it is what you're going for. And I can break that down a little bit. Assessment is knowing where you are right now, the strategy to get there, and then the execution. And so a lot of people they may have great plans. A lot of people want to be millionaires or whatever it is, but also they're unrealistic about where they are right now, especially in this day and age. You have people online talking about, I'm a millionaire. Well, what are you doing about it? What is your strategy? How are you going to execute? Who are you working to? Who are you working with? Like a coach, you called me to make sure that we can hold you accountable to these goals. If you're going to be investing on a systematic basis, make sure you're actually doing that on a systematic basis. If you miss it, then how do you make those adjustments? And I think for me, how we involve God into that whole cycle is I want to make sure people are thinking about money in a way that's not just about them and getting the latest Ferrari or whatever it is, or, just Mai Tais on the beach someday, but it's learning how we can be blessed to be a blessing. So if we're thinking about that as an end goal, I think that's more sustainable and it's more fulfilling to us rather than we get to that end, a millionaire and now we feel like we have nothing.
Right.
And again, I can keep going on forever, but one of my greatest quotes is, there's a lot of people who, they have $1 million, feel like they have nothing. People have nothing, feel like they have $1 million. So let's work on the mindset. But also let's work on the strategy and how we get there.
Right. So now I love that you touched on the kingdom purpose. So I'm also a part of that, right? That's how we met. We met in church.
Are you too? I will bring Jesus right up, bro.
Oh, no, I definitely feel you.
We'll go through the prayer and everything. I'm joking.
And 100% I believe that kingdom purpose is a big part of finance.
Of course, right.
I also believe that there are kingdom principles that actually govern how money works. What do you think some of those principles are?
That is so interesting. So, one thing I can start off with is tithing, making sure we are giving. But in the sense that it's not about giving to treat, our Heavenly Father as a heavenly, a vending machine. Right. I'm going to put my 10% in and now I want to be rich. Do something for me, God. But it's in the essence of making sure your heart is aligned with your money so it's not all about you. So I want to make sure if we're talking about money, it's in a sense that, okay, let's make sure we started with that 10% as far as tithing being what that ties your heart into as far as what you're giving to. Because if you never practice giving, that's also cutting off, that's making that money more about you, right? So we want to make sure we talk about tithing, but also, the Bible, and I won't completely quote scriptures, I'll put it here and there, but, the Bible also says that the love of money is the root of all evil.
Yes.
Right. But also the Bible also says, the humility is the fear of the Lord and its wages are riches, honor, and life.
Okay.
Which camera am I looking at? Okay. Yes. Good. Riches, honor, and life. So there is a juxtaposition there. So we have to make sure we reconcile that as Christians. There are a lot of Christians who just tithe, but they have no strategy. Mm-hmm. That's a whole nother topic. Right. But also, if you do it right, and also the fear of the Lord is humility, but humility also begets wisdom. So if you have the wisdom that you get from submitting your finances to God in prayer, and I'm going to give this to you, Father, that aligns the rest of your dollars with that purpose. So I think the first thing we want to make sure we do is make sure it's not about us, but also once we make sure it's not about us, okay, let me pray about what that next dollar is going to go into.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Also, one thing that I noticed that I do is I also try to put my money into like good causes. I also donate a lot. Yeah. I volunteer downtown at the food bank, things like that. So as the Bible says, as you give up to others, it will be given unto you. So those are some of the principles.
I mean, blessed. I'm sorry, I don't want to.
No, go ahead.
It's better blessed to give than to receive.
Right.
And also something we talk about when it comes to giving is not over giving.
Mm-hmm.
I was on another talk today where we talk about black tax or the Niger tax. Basically, people back home, if you overgive, I have my dad I've seen for years, overgive to the point where he's not able to take care of home. Mm-hmm. So this is a whole thing. If we're talking about making sure our money is aligned, there's also you can also overextend that where you're giving too much. So you want to make sure if we're talking about make sure every single dollar has a purpose, make sure it's no more than 10%, at least 10% that you set aside for giving. But you don't want to overspend to the point where you take away from your own family what you're trying to build in the here and the now.
What kind of strategy would you advise somebody that's kind of somebody that's already like that?
Sure, that's so good. I would definitely say, and I'm always ready for these answers. So pardon me if I cut you off, but I love these questions. So the 70-30 rule, there are many different principles when it comes to, aligning your dollars with some sort of practice. There's a 50-30-20 rule, but I say the 70-30 rule because that's really helps a lot of my clients. Just know what the first step is. So what the 70-30 rule says is that the first 30% needs to be given to three different places. First of all, you give, you tithe, you save the next 10%, and then you invest. So you're exactly. So you give, you save for now, and then you invest for later. Okay. And then you could do whatever you want to do with the other 70%. But as long as you have those first tenets down, that makes sure that you're making steps in the right direction. I think of financial health as far as it's a type of health. It's like a physical health or mental health. You have your mental health practice, you have your physical health practices. I go to the gym 6 days a week. Marine Corps, surprise, right? But you do these disciplines first because it's a lot harder to do it later in a day. So same thing with your finances. You put the first things first, it makes everything else easier as a corollary.
I can meet that.
So I want to go into talking about debt because I feel like a lot of people are just stuck in the place of debt where they can't come out. So what is some advice you would give to somebody who has a lot of debt and they would just want to get out of it?
That's so good. I mean, we have to, man, that is such a good question, Bookie. Yeah. I don't want to call you Books.
No, go ahead. I'm book smart. So.
And she is. But I would definitely say number one is identifying the problem at the core. If I'm a financial doctor, quote unquote, I have to say, okay, well, what is the symptom? What is the symptom telling me from my client? Okay, are you spending? Are you overgiving? Are you trying to spend to keep up with the Joneses? Right? And these kind of things, if we're overspending, then that's going to lead to debt. So we have to make sure we hone in on that. And the thing that I do as I call myself a financial educator, is not just focusing on the budgeting. People do the budgeting, but they don't fix the root cause. The root cause is how you think about money. Okay? So we need to understand what it is that you're trying to achieve by overspending. If you're trying to impress people, then let's make sure that we focus on your mindset about you feeling okay with your next dollar. Are you grateful for what you have? You're not going to hear another financial coach talk about gratitude, but I will talk about gratitude. Let's make sure you're grateful for what you have right now so you're not overspending. Once we have the mindset down, let's go into the strategy. Then we talk about the 70-30 rule. You make sure you pay yourself with that next 20%, make sure you're paying off debt, and then we can, spend on whatever it is be spent on. But also when we're talking about debt, the biggest thing we want to focus on is itemizing your interest rates. You always, there's a debt avalanche, which that's the favorite one for me. And I'll use you guys as an example. And you have another financial guest that may talk about this well, but we studied in the same school, so you may hear it twice. So good enough. That being said, so if I were to owe both of you guys money, say $1,000, right? And then Wale's a nice guy, as he is. He's great. He says if I don't pay him back the $1,000, he's gonna shake my hand until I pay him back. But Buki might not be so nice. She's gonna slash my tires. Who am I gonna pay back first?
Well, the tire slashing first.
Exactly. I don't want to get my tires slashed. So that's the same when you think about higher interest rates. You want to make sure you focus on that. You pay that off first, and everything else is minimum payments, right? But then also once you're doing that is to make sure that you are not continuing the cycle of overspending. I actually dealt with a client with the same thing. And, not to put anybody's business out there, but their thing was to spend on education for their kids, okay? And that's something that's near and dear to their heart, which I understand. But also, we have to make sure you put your oxygen max on first, Mom, before you can be able to take care of your kids, right? So,
no, I think you mentioned a few things. I'm a Dave Ramsey student.
Yes,
you talked about the debt avalanche. He called it debt snowball.
Right. Yep.
You list your largest debt first. You have time for that first. Kind of similar to what you said. So I want to get into some of the technologies out there.
Sure.
Like personal finance. Is there any apps that you suggest your clients use to help manage their debt or their expenses?
Definitely. One of my favorite apps is Empower. Empower is amazing. I actually got turned on to Empower because Mint was king for a while. Did you guys ever use Mint?
Yeah, I've heard of Mint.
Yeah. There's also Personal Capital. What I use also to track my personal finances is Chase. Chase has a wonderful app. Chase is a wonderful platform as far as investing and things like that. It's remarkable. But as far as the overall gamut of tracking your finances from, what you spend, but also what's going into investments, it is phenomenal because also you can also plan out, it projects what your future is going to look like based off of your current investing habits. So Empower is one I recommend, but also you can look into Chase and also, you can use other things as well, like Personal Capitals. Yeah.
I want to get into this student loan discussion because I feel like student loans, people put that off. Yeah. Nobody wants to pay. They're still waiting for Biden. They're still waiting for Biden to cancel their student loans. Like they put it off. So is student loan considered good debt, bad debt? Because I know there's like a very low interest rate. So people are like less, prone to like, okay, let's pay it off. Right. But like, what do you think about, first of all, is Biden going to cancel debt? Because people, I'm like, bro, he's not even in office.
He's not even in office. We're still relying on him to come back.
Biden
once he can remember to come back.
And people are not paying it off. So what do you say about holding on to student loans?
So that is such a difficult topic for a lot of people because it can feel like a weight on your shoulder, especially if it's in the hundreds of thousands, 200,000, especially if you're a doctor, nurse, which I know a lot of our people are, it's dealing with that. But also you want to make sure that you're capitalizing on the fact that it is lower interest rate. If you're in deferment, there's not really a lot of pressure for you to take care of it right now. But if it's at 4% and that deferment, goes away, yes, you should start paying that off. But because it's not high interest debt, that's what we call good debt versus consumer debt. I'm sure you know about that as well, right? So if it's something, again, we talked about that analogy of higher interest rate versus lower interest rate. Student loan is something you should pay off in the last place, but if you still, you're making progress towards that, and especially because it's so big, you don't want to go broke. Taking out your student loans rather than just focusing on making sure you're stable.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I made sure I paid that thing off. Like, I wasn't waiting for Biden or Obama or Trump. I was like, look, this thing, it was just like, when I paid it off, I don't know, I celebrated. it was just like this weight.
Good. Right.
It made it spiritual.
No. It is a weight.
I feel like this weight just lifted
Because
off.
let's talk about that. On the spiritual component, the borrower is slave to the lender.
Exactly.
So as long as you probably felt that in a spiritual sense, okay, I don't have to owe this person. Mm-hmm. They're not on my back, right? But at the same time, right? If you are, again, you don't eat out, you don't eat anything for an entire year, that's where it becomes too extreme. But make sure you take care of it. That's awesome. If you have the means to take it off and to make that kind of sacrifice, I'm sure it was a sacrifice.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, right? Then by all means do it, but never make it to the detriment of your entire living situation.
So for me, I have a story saying I also paid off my student loan as well.
So, seriously, no, this is
I increased my income.
Right.
I increased my income.
Yeah. That's awesome.
And the income that was making extra,
right?
I just tackled my student loans, right? And I paid it off, I think, 2022.
Right.
I started my business 2021. A year later, I paid off my student loans. So again, another way for people to start thinking about paying debts, either how can you increase your income? You may have some tips for your client. Okay, I need to increase my income. Like, what are some of the things you're telling your client? Okay, this is what you can do. We can side hustle, Uber, Lyft, the kind of
of course. And also I want to address that too, just the fact that you have that heart of a teacher that I mean, that's a very wise thing you did. And people are trying to increase their income, especially if they're, getting to tech and they have, 6 figures or whatever. What we're seeing is that people are going to have that lifestyle creep where, okay, your money increases, your income increases, but now you can do more things. So it's basically a net zero. It doesn't really add up.
Yeah.
But if you think about that as your ability now to pay it off, that's really great to see that. And I want you to repeat the question if you can, please.
No, like, what would you advise to clients if they're trying to increase their income?
Right.
What avenues would you kind of coach them?
Go to Wale. Wale has a boot camp. But seriously, I say that as a cheeky plug, but in a sense is skills pay the bills. If you're increasing your skills and a value add to the marketplace, you're going to increase your money as a corollary, right? So it's making sure that we are not trying to chase money. Listen, hopefully I'm getting my pastor mode. You don't try to chase money. You're attracted by who you become. If you become a more valuable person, you will attract more money as a result, as a ramification of that. So if you think about people who are most, who live the most lavish styles and make the most extravagant income, right? You think of like LeBron James. He has a skill set that no one else can match. Even in his, getting to the 40s, I'm not sure how old he is right now, but that is a skill set that no one is not replicable, right? Yeah. So if you are working on yourself every single day, this is where we kind of tie into ourselves is work with somebody like, Wale or Bouquet, and kind of get into these things where you increase your ability to add value to the marketplace. That's really going to help. And also, I would say, of course, you're doing your side hustles. I would say your side hustles is as a long-term project. Okay, these are your passion projects. You may be paying the bills with, you're doing IT or whatever it is, but say your passion project is to, open a luxury escape. I'm just plugging people all day. Opening a business, right? It's you're generating that income, but think about it as you're planting a seed for the future. The day that you plant the seed is not going to be the same day that you reap the harvest. But you think about these side hustles as things you're planting for the future, and then you kind of add these things all together, just like investments. We may talk about that as well. That these things are going to add into paychecks and to increase income for you, for the time being. So
nice.
Yeah.
So, do you have any notable success stories from any of your, clients that you've had for financial coaching?
It's many, many, many. So, again, been doing this for 10 years, and I want to talk to you guys as well. This is something I'm very passionate about because I've seen in the industry just a promulgation of people talking about finances, but also in a way that they're promoting themselves in their pocketbooks. And especially, and I'm not here to say bad things about anyone, but what I want to make sure you're doing, we should probably start off this episode saying, make sure you do your research, whatever you go with. If it's going with me, if you're going with that, do your research. But I want to make sure that long-term people are really, focusing on their finances. But I would say one story I had a client who was working with working with like an advisor. Okay. And that advisor started off the investment account. But when I met the client, it was 2 years later, that money was just sitting there in cash. Let me explain how crazy that is. And this is, they're great fidelity advisors. So I'm not saying, them as an institution, no one's saying that. But the point of an investment account is to invest, is to grow your money, right? So I was able to sit down with her and say, okay, so this person put you in an account, but they're not doing anything. And actually, I had two instances of that. They were both nurses.
Yeah.
Right. So this is what we're seeing inside the industry is that there's a lot of people who are educated in their fields, but if you're not educated as far as, working with a financial professional or a financial doctor, as I like to call ourselves, or educator, you're not going to know what's wrong until somebody tells you. So two instances of those are people who have accounts that were just sitting in cash. And that's one of the worst things you can do, especially if you're young. If you're 20 or 30, that money should be invested for the long-term purpose. So with that being said, I was able to let them know, hey, yeah, the person you sat down with didn't really do anything for your situation. Yeah. And we're able to counsel them and say, okay. And also one thing I do with my clients as well, I'm not just here to say, okay, do this because Ikechi does this. I give them videos. I say, hey, go to this website, make sure you know what you were talking about. I also tell my clients as well, again, something, I'm not trying to arbitrarily, create a value proposition, but this is how I do it with my clients because I also want to make sure I'm bringing in kingdom principles. Pray about what I'm giving you.
Right.
Sit down with it. Come back. We need to talk a month from now, a year from now, whatever. You feel right with it because I want you to. I'm not here to sell you anything. I'm here to sit down with you and make sure you know what you're doing with your money. So with those situations, I mean, she immediately got it. I sent her the video, she's like, oh, I can't believe this happened. It was like a year that it was just sitting in cash. Could you imagine how much money that could have been earning? And it was quite a sizable amount. But I mean, just the peace of mind of I showed her two projections of what it was doing if it just stayed as it is, and it was earning nothing because it's cash. Cash earns 0% versus earning say 6 to 12%, and it was astronomical difference. It's the difference between being a thousandaire than being a millionaire, which we kind of showed her in the second projection. So, yeah.
Follow up. The big thing in tech right now is artificial intelligence.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
We've seen AI. You take some jobs away or create new jobs.
Yep.
So how has AI impacted your field or your career?
Yeah, and it's going to continue to impact. That's a great question. So, I would say ChatGPT, and that's my favorite AI tool, is a big assistant. It helps you be able to, look up information and do your research faster than you can do by yourself. So it's a tool. We have to think about it as a tool. But we are going to see, because I believe that as it's growing, it may be in a position where it can replace people unless you get really good at how you're dealing with people. Mm-hmm. Because the biggest difference, we're talking about, say, ChatGPT, it can't motivate people to do it. It can't inspire people to take that action. You can have all the information that you have in the world, and then we're back and we start about in square one. We're inundated with information. Now you have paralysis by analysis. Mm-hmm. You're not doing anything. So this is where we tie in the human touch, which that's going to be a little bit harder to replicate. So now we have to master in our industry. Okay, let me make sure I'm inspiring my clients, I'm informing my clients, but also I can use ChatGPT as a tool, as a supplement to make sure they have all the necessary information to make the right decisions.
Sounds good. Yeah. Well, this has been an awesome conversation. Where can people find you, actually, if they want to get financial coaching assistance? Of course.
I guess the best way people can find me, you can do LinkedIn. Also, you can do social media at ikechi.thepfe. Make sure you can always send me a DM. However you want to contact me is the best, but I want to make sure we start the conversation. At very minimum, what I try to do with my clients is just have a conversation. So we always start with something free.
Right.
I want to make sure I can work with you because I'm going to ask you to do some things. If you're not willing to pay for it, it's not worth my time or your time. So we started with that free conversation and we go from there. And either way, you're going to leave with a prayer, knowing that someone is looking out for your finances. And that's what I want.
Well, guys, thank you for watching, and like, share, and subscribe.
Code and Capital, baby.
Code and Capital.